Today, we are diving into the unbelievable story of a man who went from being a poor farmer's son to one of the most powerful and feared criminals in all of history, the one and only Pablo Escobar.
To really wrap our heads around the scale of his power, we have to start with the money. In the 1980s, Pablo Escobar's estimated net worth was a jaw-dropping $30 billion. That made him one of the wealthiest people on the entire planet. And this wasn't just cash for mansions and fancy cars. This was the kind of money that could buy armies, politicians, and literally entire pieces of a country.
You know, he picked up a lot of nicknames, El Patron, Don Pablo, but none of them really captured his sheer dominance quite like this one, the King of Cocaine. And let me tell you, it was a title he absolutely earned by cornering the global cocaine trade and ruling it with a mix of strategic genius and just terrifying brutality.
So, that's the real question, isn't it? How does a guy with such humble beginnings climb to the absolute peak of global crime? It's a wild story of ambition, of violence, and of a system that was just ripe for the picking.
To answer that, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning and trace his journey from the streets of Medellin.
So Escobar was born in Rio Negro, Colombia, and grew up with basically nothing, but he was incredibly ambitious. In a country struggling with so much inequality, he saw crime as more than just survival, he saw it as a ladder to the very top. And it started small, almost comically so, stealing tombstones, sandblasting the names off, and then reselling them. Pretty soon he graduated to stealing cars, really laying the foundation for a much, much bigger criminal operation.
What's just insane is how fast he leveled up. In the early 70s, he escalates to kidnapping people for ransom. By the middle of the decade, he spots this golden opportunity in the booming cocaine market. And by 1976, he doesn't just join the trade, he co-founds the Medellin Cartel to control it. His arrest that same year could have been the end of his story. Instead, it showed everyone his new rulebook. He bribed the judge, and the cops who arrested him, they were later murdered. The message couldn't have been clearer. The system could be bought, or it could be buried.
And that ruthlessness? Well, that became the bedrock for the very heart of his power, his cocaine empire. So let's pull back the curtain and break down the mechanics of the Medellin Cartel, an operation that completely redefined international drug trafficking.
Just look at these numbers. It's almost hard to believe. At its peak, the Medellin Cartel controlled an incredible 80% of all the cocaine being shipped into the United States, its biggest market by far. They weren't just players in the game. For a while there, they were the game.
Let these numbers really sink in for a second. 15 tons every single day. The logistics alone are mind-boggling, and the profits were just astronomical. We're talking up to $420 million a week. There was so much cash flowing in, Escobar famously had to buy a private jet just to fly his money around.
So, how in the world did they pull this off? Honestly, it was a masterpiece of criminal logistics. They would source the raw coca paste from Peru and Bolivia, process it in these massive hidden labs deep in the Colombian jungle, then fly it all to a private island they used as a hub in the Bahamas. From there, it was smuggled into the US. This wasn't just a smuggling ring, it was basically a vertically integrated multinational corporation, a dark testament to his organizational genius.
So how did he protect this massive empire? With a very simple and very terrifying company policy: plata o plomo, silver or lead. If you were a politician, a judge, or a police officer, the choice was crystal clear. You either take a bribe and look the other way, or you face assassination. This strategy didn't just eliminate threats, it let him rot the entire Colombian state from the inside out.
With all this immense power, Escobar started to crave something more: legitimacy. This next part explores the great paradox of his life, his wild attempt to be both a political leader and a ruthless kingpin at the same time.
And believe it or not, in 1982, Escobar actually did it. He achieved a lifelong dream. He was elected to the Colombian Congress, which gave him parliamentary immunity. But that dream didn't last long. The justice minister, a guy named Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, stood up and publicly denounced him, exposing where all his money really came from. Escobar was forced out of politics, and his response was as predictable as it was brutal. Just months later, Lara Bonilla was gunned down in his car.
And right here, this is the central conflict of his entire public image. On one side, you've got the Paisa Robin Hood, the guy who built housing projects and soccer fields for the poorest people in Medellin, earning their absolute loyalty. And on the other side, you have a narco terrorist who assassinated countless officials and even bombed a civilian airliner, killing 107 people just to try and take out one political candidate.
As the Colombian and U.S. governments ramped up their efforts to catch him and extradite him, Escobar made his position perfectly clear with his famous quote: "He would rather die in his home country than ever see the inside of an American prison." And that defiance, well, it would define the final bloody chapter of his life. Look, an empire built on that much violence and fear just can't last forever. So now we turn to the final chapter, the massive manhunt that brought down the world's most wanted man.
So, in 1991, under a ton of pressure, Escobar actually negotiated a surrender. But his prison, a place called La Catedral, was a prison in name only. I mean, he designed it himself. It had a casino, a spa, a soccer field, even a waterfall. He handpicked his own guards and kept running his entire empire from the inside. It was a complete joke.
When the government finally decided to move him to a real prison in 1992, he just walked out. This kicked off a massive 16-month manhunt with both Colombian and U.S. forces. It all came to a dramatic end on December 2, 1993, the day after his 44th birthday. The authorities tracked a phone call he made to his son, cornered him, and he was killed in a shootout on a Medellin rooftop.
But his death was not the end of his story. Not even close. A staggering 25,000 people showed up for his funeral. To the authorities, he was the terrorist who had declared war on their country. But to so many of Medellin's poor, their Robin Hood was gone. This huge divide just shows you the incredibly complex legacy he left behind.
And so we're left with this question. Was he simply a monster, a ruthless killer defined by his horrible crimes? Or was he also a product of a society with such deep, painful inequality? A man who saw a path to power that no one else dared to take? His story forces us to look at the kinds of systems that can create a figure like Pablo Escobar. And that's a legacy that remains as powerful and unsettling as ever.